There are at least 670,000 asylum seekers in the U.S. awaiting their cases to be heard. The average wait time, 4.5 years. In the meantime, they can apply to legally work, a process that can take several months.
We're just outside Ciudad Juarez, and this is the last train stop for this freight train that's eventually going to head into the city. And you can see already dozens of migrants in several of these cars. On top of them, all about. They're asking us if we have water, if we have food.
We climb on. The train slowly starts up again, heading north. We meet migrants from all over.
Honduras. Says he's from Honduras originally and wants to go to the U.S.
Felipe and Marcela from Colombia, also hoping to enter the U.S.
I asked her why the U.S. She said to have a better future.
Omar from Venezuela.
Baltimore.
He's trying to get to Baltimore, Maryland.
We rode for an hour. They've been on here for days. 12 days for Roberto and his family.
Con mi papá, mi hermana.
He's with his dad and his sister.
No, pues en el viaje los roban, los insultan,
Sí.
los hacen de todo.
Says they've been attacked, they've been robbed. Describes a really treacherous trek.
Part of the train journey north for some is on what's called La Bestia, the Beast. It's also known as the Train of Death. Roberto wears a face mask to not infect the others. Tells me he got sick early on in his travels.
Says a lot of them have been sick, and over the journey he had to leave his 2 kids, young ones.
He tells me his 2 toddlers nearly died, so he sent them back with family in Honduras as he continues on. They stand, sit, and sleep on metal construction beams covered in plastic, dirty clothes and cardboard used to make it as comfortable as possible. The heat and sun, brutal. At night, it's the cold and wind. The smells, a range. Sewage at times, and burning trash as we drove past what appears to be an incinerator. Their souls worn down.
Sed, frío, hambre y pues tanto las mujeres como las niñas un peligro.
Says it's very dangerous for women too. And they said food is just really scarce right now. ¿Tiene comida o agua?
No, ya no tenemos agüita, sí me queda un poquito.
Un poquito, ¿no?
Sí, ya.
Omar spent 4 days on board already. Food? He's run out. He showed us the little water he has left and the documents he clings to, keeping secured in plastic.
Que son, supuestamente que son los requisitos para uno poder ingresar al país.
Reglas para
Ajá, eso, las opciones, pues.
Well, he's reading through all the different situations that would allow you to enter the U.S. So he's got it printed out in Spanish.
La dirección de donde van a recibir.
And he's got the address of tu amigo of his friend in Baltimore that he hopes to get to. ¿Y a dónde vas? O sea, ¿a dónde quieres ir? 4 days on the train for him. He said the first day he almost got really sick because the sun was just so strong. And now he's making sure to keep covered as much as possible. He wants to go to New York.
For Omar, it's a familiar journey. He left Venezuela 6 months ago, already expelled once from the U.S. for trying to cross. He'll try again.
¿Y quiere cruzar legalmente?
Legal o ilegal, como se pueda.
Legally or illegally, he will cross, he tells me. I ask him if he's hopeful.
Sí, sí, fe, mucha fe.
I've got a lot of faith, he tells me.
Ultimately, he hopes to get money to send back to his 2 kids in Venezuela. Muchísimas gracias.
As we pull into Ciudad Juarez, about 25 miles still from the border wall with El Paso, we and the others climb out.
And that's it. You can see most everyone now getting off. It's basically the last stop.
Omar among the last off, carrying his only belongings and, somehow, a smile.
¿Y ahora te vas a caminar?
Del puente.
Planning to cross immediately.
¿Y van a cruzar hoy, no?
Sí, vamos a entregarnos.
Wow.
Hombre, Dios.
Bueno.
As soon as we pull up, they rush towards us. My mic not even on. But that doesn't stop this crowd of Chinese migrants from venting to producer Yong Shong. They're angry having to wait in the cold for border patrol. This is just one of 3 makeshift border camps we stop at in eastern San Diego County. Alongside migrants from Latin America, at each camp, we meet dozens from China. The numbers reflect the surge. From 2013 to 2022, CBP recorded fewer than 16,000 Chinese migrants illegally crossing the U.S. southern border. This past year alone, more than 31,000. That's roughly double the prior 10 years combined. But unlike those fleeing countries in turmoil like Venezuela, Cuba, or Haiti, these migrants are leaving the world's second largest economy.
What was the reason you left China?
Their answers vary.
His family is poor.
Most cite deepening financial hardships, despite the Chinese government's narrative of a steadily rebounding economy.
How did you get here? How did you get to Southern California?
Their trek north primarily starts in one Latin American country, where Chinese do not need visas to enter.
To Ecuador. How many of you here came through Ecuador?
To really understand their journey and how it differs from other migrants, you need to see it in action. We touched down in Ecuador's capital, Quito, and standing outside of international arrivals, we noticed this man,
Chinese?
a hired driver, scrolling through photos and messages in Chinese. A few minutes later, passengers begin stepping out. They tell us they're from China and plan to go to the US, but most ask we not show their faces. The driver approaches this group, making sure he's got the right passengers.
He's got a booking for them.
We uncovered an assortment of travel packages offered specifically to Chinese migrants. You can pay smugglers who promise to ease some of the planning stress. For $9,000 to $12,000, flights, hotels, transportation booked for you. For $20,000 or more, it's a premium service, getting you to the Mexico side of the US border, skipping some of the more treacherous crossings. We drive through Ecuador's capital city with Long Tuan Way. He shows us private homes and Airbnbs where Chinese migrants stay when they arrive. Long's lived here in Quito for 5 years and runs a travel agency. He has witnessed the recent surge in Chinese migrants. And with it, a spike in businesses catering to them, like this Chinese-run hotel. The owner estimates there are as many as 100 hotels in Quito that, like hers, host Chinese migrants headed to the US.
And then take a look at this. They've got essentially a how-to guide to go from here and to continue north. And they tell you here how many days you should be preparing, vaccinations you might need, other documents you should carry with you. They even mention bringing $300 and hiding that amount of money because of presumably being robbed at some point and needing cash as a backup.
It's advice Zhang Shiqing could have used a few days earlier.
Your parents still think you're in China? They have no idea you left?
Yeah. We meet the 28-year-old back in Quito after he was robbed at gunpoint in Colombia. I left China because I was not able to save any money. It was really difficult to support myself, he tells me. He says some employers in China refuse to pay him even after working. Even if they say the Chinese economy is strong, it is all about the upper class, he says. I wish I was never born. Living feels so exhausting. After saving up enough to restart his trek, Zhang heads to this Quito bus station, where ticket sellers hold up signs like this one in Chinese. It reads, "To Tulcan, Colombian border." More than a dozen Chinese migrants board the bus north. We go with them for the 4-hour-plus ride. On board, Zhang and the others plan their next moves.
California. California. That's the ultimate goal.
Zhang plans to stay here in Tulcan for 2 nights and then hire a cab to take him over the border.
As a lot of the Chinese migrants are able to pay their way in taxi to get to the international bridge crossing from Ecuador to Colombia, we've noticed a lot of folks, migrants from Latin American countries like these over here, not having the money to do that, so they walk.
In the cold rain, we meet Angel and Isabel from Venezuela.
falta de moneda, por el money.
Caro, ¿no? Para hacer.
Claro.
He said it's really expensive to try to cross, so they have to walk.
Tulcan residents tell me they see hundreds, if not thousands, of Chinese migrants passing through each week. And because they're often carrying more cash, they are now prime targets for corrupt police and cartels. But like Zhang, they remain determined. As we return home, he updates us on his trek. Over 2 weeks, Zhang travels through 5 Central American countries, at times messaging Chinese-speaking smugglers who remotely coordinate with local cartels to get him and others on vans, buses, boats, and on flights. It cuts his travel time down to about half that of most Latino migrants. But it's costly. By the time he reaches northern Mexico, he has spent more than $10,000, with one more border to go. A camera we set up facing the U.S. southern border captures weeks of crossings, thousands entering the U.S. through this gap in the wall. Group after group, day and night, you can hear these migrants shouting in Chinese. They end up where we started, San Diego County, burning fires through the night to keep warm, and during the day, expecting Border Patrol to pick them up. Just before New Year's, Zhang messages us that he too has crossed into the U.S. and is waiting to be processed for asylum.
American.
Joining the thousands who've crossed before him and the many more to come.